focus already from Fnatic onto Smithy. He has been a pretty consistent performer throughout the tournament, but I feel like that his impact has not been as impactful as it was during the regular season of the LCS. I feel like looking at players like Flame, like Olay, who have been big playmakers, are really the core part of Immortals' success so far at Worlds.
To me, it looks like Fnatic are just trying to funnel Smithy onto that Ezreal jungle. They've seen him play it before, and it looks like they want him on one of those squishier champions to try and actually take advantage. Smithy, though, he does have other options. He's also played the Rek'Sai, even though we've seen Broxa on that. Smithy very well could steal that one away, because I don't think you want to use your first pick on jungle, even with all the bans used on it.
And this is interesting. Oh, all right. So there's the Xayah ban for Immortals, and Janna picked up with Rakan and Lulu available.
They're daring Olay to take the Rakan, and that's one of the champions that we've talked about for this team especially. Olay was such a big part of their initiations in the regular season, and the Ardent Sensor move has kind of taken him away from that role. We've seen him look a little bit uncomfortable, flashing forward on Lulu and glitter lances not really having huge impacts. But here we go. Immortals actually start taking away from Reckless instead of the support role.
Now, when you think about the AD carries that are left up, Tristana is available. There's the hover of the jungle Ezreal that you were talking about. But I feel that this... so many things to talk about. Really good steal from Immortals, but now Fnatic likely just going to go onto the Tristana. There's the potential for that late game scaling advantage that we saw when you think back to RNG versus G2, and Cody Sun could become this insane late game threat. And what Immortals were probably hoping for was if they saw the Ezreal, then they could go for something like the Lee Sin, one of Brox's most popular champions back when he first joined, but instead they're going for Rek'Sai, which is what he's brought out so far throughout this tournament.
Very simple but effective picks here for Fnatic. Rek'Sai, Trist, and Janna, as Ezreal does get locked in on the Immortals side. So I have to think we're waving bye-bye to Rakan at this point. I do not think Olay will be granted that champion, given how high pressure this game is. But Immortals, what's their focus for this first ban?
Yeah, because they're looking fairly squishy at the moment. And I think that Fnatic, especially seeing how quickly they're locking these champions, this is going according to plan for them. They were definitely expecting, like we talked about, to try and funnel Smithy into this Ezreal pick. And now the mid lane bans come through. What is it going to be? Immortals will be able to have the first pick after the second bans do timeout.
Now, I feel like Immortals don't have to ban away Syndra. They could actually pick it away from Fnatic. We know that it's been a big comfort. Oh, my apologies. Yeah, you're right. I did miss the Syndra ban from earlier on. More focus going to be down onto the mid lane. Corki still available. Ryze, another big pick. Pobelter could look to go that way, especially with the LeBlanc and the Cassio both already banned out.
Well, certainly curious selection so far, as LeBlanc banned by IMT, taking that away from Caps.
Ryze and Corki. Who's going to be traded over here?
Because, yeah, if you ban the Ryze, they insta-lock Corki, and then you're kind of limited on your options.
And the thing is, Immortals' composition with Corki on it looks terrible. That is a very, very squishy, all backline. They would have to secure some sort of front line in the top lane for Flame, but it definitely would look extremely risky, especially into what Fnatic are showing already. So the Jace ban comes through, and they're willing to trade them.
Now remember, Rumble, sorry. Gnar and Trundle are the two top lane champions that we have seen come out from various top lanes throughout groups, and they could be a good answer to whatever tank Soaz is likely to be put on. Shogath would be fine in terms of frontline, but they could also go for the Maokai that he's brought out of Faramir.
I think a big key here, too, is crowd control, crowd control,
Oh!
crowd control! But Malzahar is actually good into Ryze. Oh, goodness. And that is going to give them even more crowd control. Let's see what Fnatic are going to round it out with.
And I love Malzahar. Like, there was a recent change to him in his ability to shred through tanks, because now his ultimate became flat damage. The amount of percentage health damage that he does dramatically decreases. And while he used to be a tank killer, now he's just great at locking down these really mobile targets. And when you already have a lot of CC in your composition with things like the Cho'Gath and the Janna, it just becomes great setup or pick potential that Fnatic can look to take advantage of.
Yeah, and a big theory here is, the range at which Ryze likes to work with. Malzahar could just put down the Voidlings and ult up with the rest of the people, team sitting around, that they could try and take him there. Again, though, if they do go with this Trundle, that would be split push commitment here from Immortals. They are running fairly light on crowd control, and that means you're going to have good map movements, good side wave control in order to get your advantages, because you can't simply say, hey, it's time to force, and then have an easy force. That being said, Trundle Pillar has always been good in poke compositions, and it could combine well with, Ezreal.
And with the composition that Immortals have drafted, Ezreal really good at setting up early leads, and we've seen Xmithie do it. Think back to their game against Longzhu last week, where they just kept camping bottom lane. All he now needs to do is the same thing up top. Get Flame ahead in the early game, start to put the pressure on Soaz, become the split push threat that Fnatic have no answer for.
And Xmithie is all year long been a gank-happy, very aggressive jungler in the NALCS, so makes sense that he's taking the more aggressive pick here in Ezreal, but Immortals' composition feels very difficult to execute properly. Fnatic maybe a little more straightforward.
Now, the last time we saw Caps play Malzahar was during the spring split of the regular season back in February, a long time ago since he picked up the champion, but clearly he's kept it in his wheelhouse, and now he's going to bring it out when Europe needs it the most.
I love me some Caps, I have to say. A bunch of unique picks. It's the kind of player that was so well regarded in Europe despite being a rookie entering the league this season, and like you said, at a final time, pulling out something like this. It's not Aurelion Sol, but instead it's Malzahar.
And it's going to be the little things that I'm looking for in this matchup. Is he going to be able to spawn Voidlings to block the Rise Qs and kind of make it difficult for Pobelter to get out that damage? Or will the pressure crack? Because Immortals, like you guys are talking about, it's a fairly flimsy composition, and they do kind of need to get rolling early for it to take effect. Meanwhile, Fnatic here look pretty confident.
Their scaling is good, though. The Twitch is something you always have to respect, and something that we've seen a lot of with Immortal games is they go long. The reason why they did not get choice of side selection, the reason why they're here, is because they do have the longest game time in terms of their wins out of all of the teams participating in this three-way tie. So, Immortals can rely on that late game insurance, but it needs Cody Sun to step up.
Well, there's a lot on the line for our competitors at Worlds, and you can help raise the stakes with 25% of the proceeds from Championship Ash and World Skins being added to the prize pool, while another 25% will be donated to charity. But with that, it's time to move out into our first of 2 tiebreakers this evening. Gentlemen, I should be so lucky to have you here with me for this game number 1.
You're welcome, Patient Time.
You're welcome.
And look, if the stakes were high in the last game, they're even higher now.
All right, this is definitely a must-win game for both teams, goes without saying. Now, one of the things with Ezreal, okay, he gets hit with a Rupture as we start this off.
Silence.
Ooh.
And they will get the flash away from Xmithie, but it looks like the action's not over yet.
Yeah, looks like a bit more happening here as Cap's gonna get knocked back up. The level 1 fight looking good.
We start the tiebreaker game off with a level 1 5-on-5 fight. Couple of flashes are blown here, and it is going to be the Ezreal, but we already saw even on Ezreal, if your flash is blown, still can go for those invades. Just makes it more risky.
And Caps, he was chunked out pretty low. I believe he's already been forced to use one of his health pots, so Pobelter will have that advantage over him. And the important thing to note about this matchup is Malzahar's early wave clear is very weak, and that will give a bit of pressure over to Pobelter.
Yeah, I mean, if you take your hand in this champion and haven't played him in a while, the CSing especially
is really hard.
Is definitely frustrating early on before you get some extra levels into your skills. So oftentimes, even at the pro level, we see the Malzahar players getting a little bit behind in CS early on. Pobelter actually doing a good job here, trying to push the wave in and make it more difficult for him.
Now he's likely going to max his Malefic Vision, his E, and once he gets around level 7, that's where the laning phase gets easier. We got to talk about this top lane.
What did we say? Xmithie going top early. Flame already in combat, and Xmithie coming up.
Also
goes for the trade, level 2 Ezreal.
Great rupture there from Solas, but the pillar is going to force the flash out. Tagged already by the red buff. Xmithie still going Flame. Flashes forward, and Immortals going to grab first blood.
Xmithie's going to take that one. Here comes Broxah, but they didn't actually sustain any damage, so don't know what he's going to try and get done here. Maybe a counter jungle or maybe a little bit of warding done. Xmithie's actually recalling with that gold, so Broxah could go mid if he wraps around.
Now TP has come back up top. Ezreal's gone back to base, so he's not going to try and go for that repeat gank. But this is exactly what we were talking about. Early investment topside, get Flame ahead, and start putting that mental pressure down onto Soaz. Try and put him in a situation where he starts to fall behind and doesn't know how to come back.
All right, we get a replay here, but you don't need too many replays to check out level 2 Ezreal ganks. They've been very, very common, and he just Arcane shifts in with the red buff, applying the slow. That gives Flame the confidence to flash forward, landing extra slow there in the meantime with the chomp, and in the end, since the regeneration was coming through, Xmithie decided to take that kill, the last auto.
Well, it looks like going according to plan early on here for Immortals, but Broxah did stick around in the jungle for quite a while. A pretty heavy counter jungle here in Xmithie. He's actually back on the bot side of the map, so maybe something more brewing.
Yeah, after the early investment, Flame should have it communicated here as well that he needs to play fairly safe at the turret. He doesn't want to overextend. Fnatic, remember the success previously was all those visits from Broxa to get Soaz snowballing on that Cho'Gath. And this time around, it's going to be imperative for Immortals that they don't let that happen. Meanwhile, Smithy's bottom side, and he still has his red buff.
Guess who's at it again? Looks like Jez could be the target, but jumps on a Reckless. Now going to try and apply the red buff, does land and forces the flash.
Fnatic, they're struggling in the early game right now. Xmithie doing exactly what he did against Longzhu, but spreading his pressure all across the map, getting a kill up top, forcing the flash down bot, and now he needs to maintain this pressure. Remember this composition, yes, it does have a good late game, but it's also very squishy, and being able to have these early leads, have that advantage over your opposition, is a great way to start off this game.
Definitely true. And remember with the Ezreal, oh, he actually waits around and the Raptors spawn right in front of him. So Smithy with a secondary Raptor take here. Even though Ezreal doesn't love the Raptor camp early on, it's not that big of an issue. And especially since the sides have been split here, so it's kind of a necessary take for him to keep pace with Broxa. As Broxa now off to Scuttlecrab can make a visit towards Pobelter.
Yeah, it looks like he pretty massively hates it. Actually took so much damage trying to kill the Raptors, but does secure it at least and keep up and even in jungle experience. Again, given how much ganking he has done early on in this game, it's important for him to keep pace. And Pobelter also still slightly ahead in this mid lane matchup. Did get off a recall to match Caps, and now has that tier charging up early. Pobelter actually back in, but bit of trade damage.
Yeah, Caps is able to get the Voidlings off, but even with the Voidling blocking the second Q there, still decent damage dealt by Pobelter in the trade. Meanwhile, a lot of vision below the mid lane here for Immortals. They've got Control Ward down here, and there's even some deep, for Immortals, that's what I was saying. That is just here cleared out by Jez's, but it does see the roam towards mid.
And I think Immortals are respecting the fact that Fnatic have this tendency to play around the bottom side of the map. They want to make sure that their Twitch does have a happy laning phase, and right now Cody Sun does have that pretty significant CS advantage, which is something that is much easier to ascertain when you're being paired up with that Lulu. So both AD carries going fairly even, and what you really want to be seeing from Reckless is putting that Twitch under pressure. You want to try and punish that early laning phase, which, if you can't, is going to be great for Immortals come the mid-game 2-item spike.
Pretty funny for me to see Cody Sun actually doing the Reckless against Reckless. Daggers everywhere in the bot lane. 5 total. 2 versus 3 for Fnatic and IMT's ADs respectively. As we said, expecting some early Zeal items, wanting to get more of that wave clear and scale up, so certainly makes sense. Broxa in the meantime poking into mid lane from the top, but instead walking back to the jungle.
Keep your eyes on the teleports as well, because Soaz is about to return, whereas Flame recently used his. This could mean that Fnatic could try to make some kind of play happen down bot around the dragon. It is an early Cloud Drake, but being able to get that early advantage and start the Reckless Snowball could be a great way for Fnatic to play.
And they just saw Smithy down bottom side, so Fnatic know they have numbers on top side. Flame definitely going to be the target. And there's no teleport from Pobelter this game around, so he is 1v3.
Caps goes in, he's got the level 6, he flashes early, but the flash on bar from Broxa is there. Caps, he's going to try and get himself a kill with the silence into the suppression. Caps, wonderful roam, gives Soaz a kill.
Nice execution there from Fnatic, able to pull off the play, and with Immortals overloading on the bottom side for Fnatic just bails. They recall completely, and it's going to have to be Smithy trying to answer with something else.
Now Pobelter will get a decent amount of damage down onto the middle lane. Ooh, good ultimate there from Xmithie to try and keep that top tower alive. But you do have the Voidlings, and it's past 5 minutes, so that top tower dies extremely quickly.
Yeah, they're in the race here, and even with the red buff Ezreal, here come Reckless and Jezz to defend the turret and try and delay. The first turret bonus probably going to be Fnatic.
Looks like that's the case. Soaz gonna get the last hit and split a good chunk of gold between him and his mid laner. Immortals do answer, but the bonus gold went to Fnatic.
Question is, oh, they're not actually even transitioning into the Drake. People don't care about the Cloud Drake enough. Here's a good charge here from Fnatic. Remember, they saw Smithy down bottom, so they know this is a simple dive to pull off. Since Pobelter doesn't have teleport, there's no possible reinforcements. So they're all just going to blow flashes, jump right in there. You know, Soaz is happy to tank the turret. He didn't even get, you know, much damage contributed to it. So
and he took the kill too. He was just like right at the end. Hey, I tracked this tower. I have to take some of the credit here. So he's now sitting at 1-1-0.
Didn't get much damage, but it was the damage that mattered.
It did, exactly that. Now, Caps, he's going to be happy returning to mid lane, playing around top side rather than bot. A slight shift from Fnatic, but definitely one that worked for them pretty well up against the Gigabyte Marines. And now Xmithy, he's looking to try and continue that early pressure. Now level 6, we saw him utilize the ultimate up top. Let's see what else he can do on the map.
Remember, Soaz also teleport advantage after this, so they still have to be a bit cautious on bottom side, even though the Fnatic tower is down. That's why kind of Reckless and Jezz are just pushing in on the turret here, making use of the Tristana explosive shot. They know they actually have top laner advantage if Soaz could back off far enough that it wouldn't be interrupted by a pillar.
I do like this vision, though, from Immortals. They put it just into
the
river. They're looking for a play.
Oh, Cody gets knocked out by a tornado. Might take a little too much damage. Reckless with a buster shot forces the barrier out of Cody.
You can tell they're setting up for it as Soaz on your minimap backed all the way off to his turret there. That's kind of the indicator for the possibility of one of those plays being set up. And that was very close to being a 5-man bottom with Caps rotating over, but the defense is there for the meantime.
Now, look in the middle lane, because Caps, he's reached the level 8 mark. We talked about how level 7 is where things get a lot easier for Caps because he has so many points in his E. Now that he's got an extra point in his Q as well, that wave clear becomes impossible for Belter to deal with. So he's the one that's always forced under his tower, and Caps will have priority on the roams. He will have more windows available. Just look at how he's going to clear out this minion wave, and then he's going to move into the jungle, and Immortals always have to respect where Caps could show up.
Goes back as well, so Caps could make it 2 for 2 on successful roams here in this game. Just a little too much work from all the dots there from Malzahar, and Caps again jukes out of vision. Belter going to try and keep tracking him, gets a control ward down onto the left side of mid, but Immortals being forced kind of far back here in these lanes. Flame still salvaging his top lane, although he does now have the teleport back up. We're really just looking for kind of that first big point of tension. Cody has gone back, has his rune-ins to get things farming, but Reckless probably doing the flat AD BF sword pickaxe into his own kind of farming wave clear item. So things may continue to be a bit slower here up towards the 20-minute mark.
He doesn't need boots. He's got a Janet. As long as he's just running after her, making sure that Jezz is always in front of him, he's going to be gliding like a plane.
That's like saying you don't need attack damage because he's got a Janet. She can give you a shield. You don't need health because you have a Janet. She'll give you
all those things.
She'll give you everything.
I think it's funny because I was going to say Fnatic loves to prioritize Reckless in the draft. I saw the general like, oh, that's interesting. But realistically, that is prioritizing Reckless in the draft.
It's honestly why she's so good right now. She does give so many different stats like that. Here goes Immortal starting up the Cloud Drake though, and that will give them even more move speed, at least out of combat. Brooks are going to try and answer with the Rift Herald over here. Should be easy for him, you know, as Soaz could just mosey on down if they needed any extra support with the Cho'Gath.
Now it looks like Soaz is working towards that Righteous Glory, so Fnatic have that engage option, and we got to think about that because when you look at both sides, it's not actually a lot of engage. You don't think of something like the Gragas, like the Sejuani, they were all banned out, so you're going to have to rely on Soaz flanks, you're going to have to rely on good pillars from Flame, and there's just going to be a lot of kiting and back and forth, and just individuals either being out of position and relying on big objectives to force these fights.
That's why we keep talking about how difficult this composition for Immortals would be to pull off. They have to play around disengaging, throwing up these pillars. Right now, they're going for Caps, though.
Cody sneaking in. Pybelta flushes in, look for the root. Oh, that passive!
It stays on a bit longer there, and he's able to block that CC, so Flash from Pybelta gets nothing.
Trade of summoner spells in the middle lane. Neither mid have them available now. Cody's Sun tries to make a play in mid, and that gives a window for Reckless and Jezz to push up bot, and they could get a fair amount of damage onto that tower.
One of the reasons why you really like that champion, extra spell shield comes in super handy when people are trying to initiate on you.
This is a Fnatic brush. This is the sneak in the brush, sit and wait for the enemy team to overextend, but Immortals, they're going to go back themselves, assuming that Reckless and Jezz have already gone back.
It's an interesting term how it's evolved to people just say any brush
if they're in the brush,
is a Fnatic brush if they're in it, but originally I remember it being this one super far up by the secondary turret in the side lane. That was the original Fnatic brush from like 6 years ago.
Yeah, back when they used to run the double TP Lissandra top kind of days. So definitely been taken slightly out of context, but I had 2 Fnatic members in a brush. I'm going to call it that.
Soaz was on that team when they were doing it.
Uncle technically correct on that one, but
Or was he?
as Cavs are still cleaning things out. I mean, it is important to note that Fnatic are one of the most experienced League of Legends teams in the game's history. I mean, we have two teams that have never been to Worlds before in this set of tiebreakers, and Fnatic, the veterans here, trying to continue an incredible run of form here in week 2.
And many European fans thought that Fnatic would be the first seed coming into Worlds. They had an 11-2 record during the regular season. They had extremely high expectations, and then they were upset during playoffs. They had to fight their way through the gauntlet. And for Immortals, it was a bit of a surprise because they had Smithy join the roster. Expectations were fairly low, and then they had a very impressive season.
Yeah, the reason expectations were fairly low is because of their spring split performance, but they completely turned it around. Smithy coming in. Also should be talked about is Song in the coaching that really helped out Immortals as far as their decisiveness. But right now, the Rifteld is making quick work of the first outer turret in mid lane for Immortals, and Fnatic push ahead in gold.
Void wants to party there, does net Fnatic the mid outer turret. Now up by 1 is, again, the pace of this game. Kind of, you can feel the weight of a tiebreaker game on these two teams.
I'm fascinated by how many of these fights will actually start because, we talked about the engages earlier on, but right now I think both teams are pretty happy to scale. Malzahar's not exactly a weak late game champion. He used to be much stronger with his percentage health damage, but now Immortals looking for a pick.
Cody-san looking for something here, but Pobelta could be the first pick off. Caps lets the ultimate rip. Broxah lines up the knockup there and silence to death. Caps nails the kill.
Extremely easy setup for Caps. Pobelta couldn't do anything because he had no flash. He was silenced up after the ultimate, and the chain CC from Broxah will get the Fnatic mid laner his first kill of the game.
Pobelter had his eyes on bottom lane there, trying to run down to the play. But again, like we emphasize in Champion Select, it's so much easier when you have these crowd control abilities at your disposal. Very easy for just point and click there. Nice chain from Caps and Broxah to get that kill.
And after Pobelter's death, Cody-san had to move up to mid to clear out the wave, and that's going to give a window for Fnatic to get this bot tower as Cody-san comes up instead.
No ulti, but he actually jukes the tornado. Reckless maybe overstays his welcome. Cody wants it. Will not flash forward. Nice silence from Caps to cover the aggression.
Love the play there from Cody. Keeps his tower alive. Doesn't allow Fnatic to snowball the gold lead any further. While it is slightly in the European squad's favor, this is how they were able to build that slight lead.
Yeah, Pobelter had his eyes on bottom lane and no vision of this ledge over here. So Caps and Broxah, as we said, easily able to just jump right over, secure themselves some extra gold.
Silence is a mage's worst enemy. The inability to do anything, because your basic attacks don't do much. Like, you're entirely reliant on your spells, and if you don't have them available, you end up just getting locked out.
Suppression, knockup, those are also pretty annoying to deal with, and 100% to 0 is rough life.
Yeah, fortunately for Pobelter, no available counterplay in that situation. And Immortals.
QSS is how you get it.
In that situation.
Yeah, you're correct.
And that is actually something worth highlighting. We haven't seen Malzahar in quite a while, and he was a support for a long time when he was kind of in vogue, but you do need to get out of the pressure, and the only way you could do that is with a QSS, which feels real awkward for Rise.
It's one of those debates where by having a Malzahar in the game, you can force your opponent into building a QSS. Yes, that's great, but in the late game, when 4 out of the 5 members all have QSSs, now Malzahar doesn't really have a target that he can focus down on, and his ultimate becomes less and less reliable as the game progresses.
But then all these, mages and stuff are using an item slot on something that can only be upgraded for attack damage. Uh-oh.
Gonna help the silence problem with the BM sword behind the Mercurial Scimitars. Looks like teams are lined up for this Infernal Drake. Fnatic, though, first to the play.
Yeah, looks like they're going to be able to get this one. Infernal Drake right down, and they teleport in behind him.
But the pillar actually from Flame tries to knock down Caps. So Solid, he wants more for his team. Righteous Glory in, silence on the Cody-san. He jukes away from the Rupture, but is forced to flash the wall. Reckless, Rocket jumps towards IMT, and no kills are forthcoming.
Gonna be able to hold on to this one as well for Fnatic. Infernal Drake picked up. They also blew the flash on as well. Olay. Cody-san, so the back line definitely very vulnerable for Immortals right now. And remember, the only kind of defense they have in the front line is these pillars going up to try and kite around, but it's going to be very difficult with all the things that Fnatic are trying to throw at them.
The thing is, though, we've been looking so much at the bottom lane that we have not been paying attention to Flame, who's been quietly farming up in the top lane. 30 CS advantage now onto Soaz. He's building himself up into this pretty threatening split pusher later into the game.
Well, he's going to have to get started quickly.
Gonna have to maybe make a trade. Fnatic take the bottom out of Flame. Is going to try and equalize here. Should be able to chomp this one down. Soaz will not make it in time with the wave. More than enough for Flame here. And this is a pretty good picture of what the game is going to look like as it develops. Flame is going to want to have as much side lane time as he can, and Fnatic are just going to try and force.
Exactly that. They're going to try and force Immortals to group up as a 5-man, whereas Immortals are trying to separate Fnatic and keep them in their individual side lanes. Send Pobelter down bot, keep Flame up top, play this 1-3-1 style, and make sure that Caps is separated from the rest of his team so that they can use Cody Sun to try and find these picks around the map. Immortals and Fnatic both have ways they want to play, but it's all about who can get that vision down and be the first one to set up for objectives to then force their way of playing.
Well, again, the game develops as we hit almost 20 minutes. QSS now done for Pobelter, but we'll check in back with the bot laners. There's 2 items done for Reckless. Very close in goal between the 2 marksmen, but Cody is a little further away, in part thanks to his boots to purchase, but not too far away from finishing his second major item, of course, being the Infinity Edge as well. So we're getting team fight ready if the teams want to have some sort of a scuffle, but again, the pace of this game, very deliberate, certainly echoes the stakes in this match.
Top lane, Soaz was waiting in a brush, and now he's charging at Cody Sun.
Oh no, Rupture is going to land the wild grip, maybe not enough, the execute from Rupture not there, but the feast not needed. Broxer grabs the kill, and now Caps in onto Ole, look at the silence him, that's so much damage from this Malzahar, the shield, not there, Caps snipes Ole with a Q.
Fnatic able to take advantage here, they kill off that bottom lane without flashes, and they're around Baron now.
Remember that the play that Fnatic tried to force earlier forced both those Summoner's Bells. Smite is available for Xmithy. He is in the vicinity, and I don't think he wants to give this one away for free.
15 seconds to feast on Soaz. Pobelter trying to shove down mid, but Caps will match him. This should be Baron going over to Fnatic. Immortals do not contest.
It's just so dangerous for Immortals. Fnatic have all of this CC. They're waiting, by the way, for Baron buff so that the respawn... Actually,
I think they just wanted to give a show a feast stack.
Okay, the cooldown on his ultimate. I was like, oh, maybe they're waiting for someone to revive. Wait, no one died on their team.
Yep, we can see exactly how Fnatic were able to make this play. They saw Cody Sun trying to catch the wave. They knew he had no flash. So as rushing the Righteous Glory allowed them to get the collapse. And unfortunately for Ole, he couldn't provide enough utility.
And this is the reason why we talked about with the outer turrets going down for Immortals. It's such a dangerous game. They're the team that has to run away, has to kite, and Fnatic are the ones with the more options because they have all of these tools to pick people off. Really good use there for Fnatic to capitalize. They actually got both of the kills off of that, and a very, very good Baron for them to push up bottom side now.
And again, as Fnatic kind of move as a 5-man unit, sieging with this Baron buff, Caps has had an incredible game so far. 2-0-1 on the Malzahar. Didn't even use his ultimate to kill Ole. Was so confident in his play, but now he lets the rip in onto Flame. Big silence there is also. Tornado's also going to wombo combo it in. But Cody unleashes his ultimate on the other side, but Fnatic not deterred, will keep sieging.
Fnatic, they get a lot of damage down onto Flame, but he's being forced to group. Remember that Immortals want to keep Fnatic apart. Their true strength comes when they're a 5-man unit, and they can utilize the item spikes that they've now picked up for themselves.
Flame's going back to the fountain right now, so there is a small window for Fnatic to push in and try and bully this turret down. Looks like they'll take that and just break the window.
IMT concede the objective. Figure it's not worth fighting over that tier 2, but now round 2 is Fnatic. Still got 2 minutes left with his Baron.
Feel very confident to continue this siege. Immortals, they have no answer. Remember, they have no engage, and Fnatic are just walking into their base.
Exactly, no front line here. The ulti was already used from Flame when he got Mal's ultimate, so there you go. Nice inhibitor for Fnatic, and they are going to be very happy with those rewards. So quick and easy for them to take afterwards. Baron recall will let them spend all the cash as well.
And you have to go back to the draft. Remember how many jungle bans we saw coming out from Fnatic. There was the Jarvan, the Sejuani, the Gragas. So many engage options were taken off of Xmithy. And coming into World's group stages, I felt like Xmithy and Ole were 2 of the key initiators for this squad. They were the people that you relied on to start the fights. You take them off that, and you can see Immortals are really struggling in this mid-game point.
Well, we've already talked about, again, the stakes of this match, but there's also something else potentially on the line. No team at Worlds has ever qualified after going 0-3 in week 1, and no team at Worlds has ever qualified after going 0-3 in week 2. So there is the chance for Fnatic or Immortals to do something that has never been done at Worlds, but that will come, if at all, in our next match. But right now, Fnatic are firmly in the driver's seat.
And the problem with a split push comp when you're this far behind is that your 4-man squad can't even slow down the other 5-man squad that's coming to take down your turrets. And Fnatic could even threaten tower dive while Flame is pushing on the side lane. You see, Flame couldn't even push more than one wave there in the time it took Fnatic to take a turret. Now he's forced back to base, and they're just going to have to hope for some big outplays.
Now there's 20 seconds left on the Baron. Fnatic, they will run that buff out, but they still feel confident enough to keep the push on. They're going to extend their vision deeper, steal away some of these camps, but they're not afraid of Immortals when there is no threat of engage coming out from the North American squad.
And if anyone from Immortals puts a toe out of line with maybe the exception of Pobelta, Capta's ulti will just lock them down. There's Cody, way too far forward. The Walker, not nearly enough, but the barrier will actually save him. So taking the torrent for maybe a little too long, but they still bust through the top lane.
No one from Immortals can step up here, and they're just waiting around to watch the inhibitor die.
Fnatic feeling good. They get themselves their second inhibitor of the game 24 minutes in. This is such a different performance from what we've seen throughout the entire group stages. Fnatic and Immortals have had such nail-biter games, but the difference in preparation has given Fnatic the edge.
7,000 gold ahead for Fnatic after almost 4,500 gold Baron power play. 2 inhibs cracked in top and bot lane, and now the mid lane left with an Ocean Drake as a bit of an additional objective if Fnatic would like it. They have complete control of the map right now, and it's showing.
Things become harder and harder for Immortals. They're going to have to rely on Fnatic mispositioning around an objective, overcommitting for a Baron, and maybe getting it stolen away. But even then, you're just looking at this Twitch and hoping that he can get to a late game point where he can maybe turn things around.
Yeah, it looks like Fnatic can't wait for their rematch with the Gigabyte Marines, as we're only 25.5 minutes into the game, and they've already destroyed the majority of the Immortals base. Now, the only area left is straight up mid lane.
Fnatic, of course, not wasting any time. Able to push through here with plenty of items just across all of their champions. And this turret, not particularly defendable. Flame has 2 different super minion waves to worry about. And every bit of poke from Caps is doing an absurd amount of damage.
Huge silence onto Cody Sun. He wanted to try and force something there, but instead he's going to get forced back, getting relatively low. And look at the prolific vision on Pobelta.
Yeah, it's so hard to see the opening for Immortals to try and make the comeback play. And it has to be some mistake here from Fnatic. You know, there is a lot of damage on Immortals that they could punish a mistake if one presented itself, but there are just so few options.
Well, turret number 3 in the inhib cycle will maybe look to go down here. TP from Soa's back to lock up Xmithie and buy a bit more time. He's actually flanking as he chunks Xmithie to 50% health. The Rupture not quite there, but they break the turret. Now, 1 inhibitor left for Fnatic to take, but they'll play it a bit more patiently.
I thought that they would try and reset for Baron, but they've actually got their eyes on the inhibitor. They feel strong enough to commit. Here comes Flame with the pillar.
Have to be something here for IMT, but Fnatic again just playing out their composition as they drew it up in the draft. This inhib is going to fall down. You just cannot face check this Malzahar and Shogat, and Reckless is more than enough insurance for these fights. Cody lets it go with the ultimate. Flash fill there from Flame, trying to start something. The root onto Caps is not enough damage as Soas again moves back through. Reckless getting aggressive, jumps forward towards the Immortals, and Soas just eats away, gets the kill. Cody caught by a Rupture. That's going to be it. Fnatic push through, take down the Nexus, and look to make World's history as they go up against once more the Gigabyte Marines.
Look at the smiles on Fnatic faces. They defy expectations. They're going to take down Immortals and keep their quarterfinal hopes alive.
Only 1 left there as the Nexus goes down. Immortals will beat it due to the World's group stage of Fnatic. Have 1 more game to play.
Very clean game overall from Fnatic. You look at the early draft and there is so much pressure on Xmithie to snowball the top lane, keep the bottom lane from falling behind. He does all these things, but then one big play from Fnatic in the top side where they kill Cody Sun, they kill Ole without their flashes, very quickly translates into a Baron, and then there's nothing that Immortals can do to stop the relentless pressure from Fnatic.
Inexperience maybe showing a bit there from Immortals for their first trip to Worlds. A valiant effort here in Group B, but they will fall to the experience and honestly poor